Welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Breitman, co-owner, co-founder, and host of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. Thanks so much for being back today, Tuesday, June 6th, flying through the first week of June. Lots to discuss. Yesterday, focused on Rutgers recruiting, both for football and basketball in the class of 2024. Both programs doing rather well so far, although it's early, or I guess midway, you could say. Football ranked number 19th nationally. I did speak about, while it's super encouraging, they really are tracking more like a top 40 class versus top 20. There is a chance to finish there. They have to add, several high-end recruits, four-star guys that they are in the mix on. And I thought that their visitor list last weekend was very encouraging. A lot of big names on there. We'll see what the list for this coming weekend looks like. But obviously a huge month for them in terms of recruiting. Rutgers basketball had Bryce Dortch, four-star wing out of Massachusetts, on campus. Would be a great addition to the 2024 class that right now is top 10 nationally. Obviously, you have East Bailey, you have Lathan Somerville, and then potentially Dylan Harper. Adding Dortch to the mix would be a power class for sure. But what I wanted to talk about today was the transfer portal needs for both programs, and what I hope they're able to procure this offseason in terms of needs for next season. So starting with football, I still think they need another wide receiver. They added Jaquai Jackson, the Division II All-American. That was actually only three weeks ago. I checked before I did this. Felt like 3 months ago. Obviously, talented guy, comes with a good resume. They also got Nassim Brantley, an FCS receiver. Earlier in the transfer portal, he was hurt during the spring. They're probably your top two receivers on paper. Chris Long, I would say, for me, is the best returning receiver. He showed flashes last year. I'm really high on him. I think he's going to have a good season. But those are probably your top three receivers on paper. And that's a really unproven group to go into the season, especially with the schedule that we've discussed multiple times now in terms of needing to hit the ground running. You have Northwestern, Temple, and Virginia Tech back to back, all at home to start the season. If you want to go bowling in 2023, you kind of have to go 3-0 in that stretch. At worst, 2-1. And to do that, yes, Kirk Sherrock is going to have a game plan in terms of, they're going to be run forward. I hope they utilize Gavin Wimsatt's strength with running the ball, RPOs. They're going to be a run-heavy team. Hopefully Samuel Brown, running back, is healthy for the start of the season. But they need to – listen, they're going to have to make plays in the air too, right? And it's a really unproven group right now. So for me, I love the addition of Sean Ryan last year. That Taj Hall got all the press going in based on his resume. Did not work out at all. It happens sometimes. You never know. Sean Ryan was a really good pickup for them. And he was someone, he was a number 3, number 4 receiver for West Virginia. He had multiple seasons of 20 to 30 catches. He averaged over 12 yards a catch. He had some big plays in his career. And he came to Rutgers. He emerged as the season went on and had a bigger and bigger role. Now, is that who you wanted as your number 1 receiver? No, it would have been a much better situation if he was the number 2 guy or the number 3 guy. And Aaron Cruikshank and Shameen Jones had their moments too. And as a trio, I did like the group, but just imagine what the offense would have been last year without them, right? And we might not have to imagine that much longer. And that's why they need help. And I think, yes, Jackson could be good. Brantley could be good. Long could be good. Rashad Rochelle could step up. Isaiah Washington could put it all together. But the bottom line is a freshman could step up, Dylan Brathwaite. But they really need a proven guy. Again, you're not going to get a number 1, number 2 receiver right now, but someone that has FBX experience and preferably someone that has Power 5 experience. I think it's a big need, and I'm sure they're working on it. Here we are, June. I think it's something you got to get. Of course, if they don't, they're going to make the most of what they have. Dave Brock is a tremendous wide receiver coach, but I think to feel a little bit better about the potential of the offense, you need to grab a proven receiver at the FBS level. which Jackson and Brantley are not. They have a lot of potential. They've had success in their careers, but they're coming from D2 and FCS. So huge need still, in my opinion, for Rutgers football. Will they add an offensive lineman? Will they add someone in the secondary? I think it's possible. I think those are areas of need that would be kind of a nice depth add. I don't know if you're going to get a starter at this point, but obviously adding depth to both of those positions would be good. But I really think they need to try. Well, I'm sure they're trying. They really need to land an FBS proven experienced receiver to add to the mix. Again, I'm high on Long. I think Jackson and Brantley could be good, but going into the season, a season you want to go bowling, a season you're front loaded with a schedule of winnable games, you would like more experience at the wide receiver position. So especially with a quarterback like Wimsatt that's still developing. We'll see what happens there. And then in terms of basketball, obviously Cam Spencer's gone. You have 3 open scholarships right now. One thing from Steve Peichel's podcast episode that came out yesterday, I did cover, focused on the trip to overseas, both to Dakar, Senegal, and to Lisbon, Portugal. I focused that on an article this morning. But one thing that he did mention, and he spoke about NIL at length. And by the way, Geo Baker and the Knight Society announcing today a event with Rutgers men's basketball. The entire program is going to take part, a golf outing at Top Golf. I think I got that right, in Edison in July, which sounds like an awesome event. And my point with the NIL is that it's that's what it's intended to be. And I think Rutgers, in the process of hiring an NIL manager, yes, student athletes need more opportunities, and hopefully businesses look to them for those opportunities. But at the same time, having more events would be such a positive thing, with programs, partnering with collectives, partnering with businesses. These would be amazing opportunities, and a way to really be front facing and also benefit the fans, bring value to the fans. I'm a sucker for community. It would be a positive there. But it would also be in the spirit of NIL, but it would also just be more opportunity from an NIL perspective. I think basketball is being really proactive right now. More stuff's going to come out. The overseas trip, I think they're putting stuff together, especially for Cliff, being an international student. I think, well, I know they're working on something big for the season that, really would be an awesome thing if it happens. Too early to talk about. But more events like this would be awesome. So credit to Geo Baker and Knight Society and the basketball program for kind of being, not reinventing the wheel, but being creative and creating and developing NIL opportunities and connecting fans with their programs. And I think that schools, athletic departments need to look at that part of the NIL, how you can connect your fan base to your programs. I think there's a ton of value there. But going back to my original point, Peichel threw in the caveat, mentioned in the podcast, spoke about Jamichael Davis. So there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of concern. Where's Jamichael Davis? Why hasn't he signed? Why haven't they announced it? Well, there's no rule he had to announce anything. But Steve Peichel talking about Jamichael Davis as being part of the program, he didn't say the words he has signed his letter of intent. He said, he talked about him as part of the program. And he spoke at length about younger players having opportunities. He focused on Antoine Woolfolk, Derek Simpson, Antonio Chol. All guys are going to have opportunities at bigger roles this coming year. Chol's a bit of a wild card. Simpson and Wolf, we really liked what we saw last season. But now Jamichael Davis is going to be in the mix. So Peichel mentioned him is just the obvious sign that he's part of the program. If they're going to formally announce, if he's going to have some type of ceremony, who knows? But that's up to him, right? But for Peichel, by definition, to mention Davis, he can't mention a recruit that's not part of the program. So by mentioning Davis, that's your tell. That's your message that, hey, he is part of this program. And as crucial as he is from a recruiting perspective in terms of Ace Bailey, being tied to him, being lifelong friends, I really like Jamichael Davis for what he is as his own player. He's going to bring a ton of athleticism. I think he's going to be a bulldog defensively, on-ball defense. I think he's going to, be an up-tempo type player. I think there's a lot of value in him. And who knows how the roster will ultimately shake out, right? We're still waiting on Paul Mulcahy. By the way, he won Advocate of the Year at the NIL Summit. I touched on it yesterday, but forgot what the title was or the actual award. But he did that amazing gesture of buying gift cards with his NIL money for ushers and security at the rack last year. So that was, I think, a big part of why he won that award. So awesome to see him honored for that. Have not heard back yet in terms of, again, announcements wise, right? He withdrew from the draft, didn't announce it, didn't announce a return to Rutgers. There's still optimism that he will return. I did talk last week, I forget which episode, about just the reality of being a grad transfer nowadays. You can never say never. It's just the reality of being a grad transfer, right? We saw that with Cam Spencer. There is no deadline. There is no you must, if you don't enter the portal by a certain time, you're back, right? And that's why we know Cliff coming back, even though we know schools tried to poach him as well and get him in the portal. He's not in the portal to be eligible next season. He's playing at Rutgers. He's back at Rutgers. We can take a deep breath with Cliff Amori. Paul, he's his own man. He got a lot of gruff last year. He had a tough go of it. He was injured. He's been a consummate, just a great representative of Rutgers basketball, and he's done a lot for this program. Will he be back? I hope so. I still think so. But I will say, in the middle of June, each day that goes by, yeah, it's fair, to wonder more and more. Now, I know some people, for whatever reason, will be happy that he's not. If it turns out that way, I think he adds a lot of value. I wrote how, he's even more important than ever. I think him with Fernandes and Simpson would be, again, a very versatile backcourt. I think he'd be used in multiple ways. I think that Fernandes would take some pressure off Paul, and I would just love to see him have one more go of it, healthy, with a, I think maybe a better suited supporting cast guard wise for him. So we'll see what happens. But we know for a fact Rutgers has 3 scholarships open right now. I don't expect them to fill all 3. You got to get a backup big man. You got to get some kind of shooter, whether that's a wing or a guard. You pencil in Mulcahy for now. I said this last week. I'm not sharping him in, but I'm penciling him in. But you need a shooter to go along with Mulcahy, potentially, hopefully, Simpson and Fernandes, 2 penetrating guards. Whether that's a wing, whether that's a guard, you need a shooter. So I do think with football and basketball, having all these high-profile 24 visitors, class of 24 high school guys, who knows who they're sneaking in the back door in terms of transfer portal candidates. And Rutgers basketball is exploring every opportunity, whether that's the transfer portal, whether that's a JUCO player. They've had success with JUCO in the past, particularly in big men. And then also, we know about their interest now in Joey Hart, the 23 shooter from Indiana, that Kentucky and Indiana are all over. People said he was committed to Kentucky, then he's visiting Indiana. Will Rutgers be able to get him on campus? Remains to be seen, but we know they need a shooter. We know they need somebody to replace scoring production that Cam Spencer has now left. So we'll see what happens there. But, yes, a backup big man is important, but I'm really focused on who they can bring in as a scoring guard or wing to fill that void, and then hopefully you get Mulcahy back. And then you have Fernandes and Simpson, which gives them another dynamic. And I've touched on how I think this could be a more up-tempo style team next year. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm focused on the portal for both. Rutgers football needs a receiver. Rutgers basketball needs a shooter. So let's hope that all comes to fruition soon. We touched on NIL. We touched on Jamichael Davis being back. I did want to end just talking about track and field. Rutgers sports is not over yet. Next week, I'll focus a little bit more on the school year that was for Rutgers athletics and what's to come. Look forward to next year. Preview a little bit. But for this track and field, nationals start on Wednesday in Austin, Texas. 2023 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Rutgers has 2 student athletes there. Sincere Robinson will be there competing on Wednesday in the long jump. Previous Big Ten champion indoor. He finished second in outdoor at the Big Tens a couple weeks ago. He is the program record holder in the long jump. So big for him to compete. And then also Then you have Chloe Timberg, who's a program record holder and also Big Ten champion in the pole vault. And she went to nationals last year. She's going back. She was a true freshman last year, didn't perform as well as she wanted to. She could win the whole thing. She could be a top 5, no doubt. So she's got a real good chance, I think, to be a first-team All-American. Robinson has a chance as well. So I'll keep you posted on there. I'm going to have an article out. I'll link the times and how to watch, how to track, but I'll, of course, cover it. But off-season, June, really focused right now on what's Rutgers football and basketball going to do to add to their rosters, to add depth, to add talent, because both programs we want to take a step forward next season. Thanks so much for watching and listening to this episode, and I'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday, and continue to check scarletfaithful.com for all my content. I'll have a couple more articles out tonight. Thank you, and talk to you tomorrow.